Hello, my name is Mark, and you are listening to Cutouts.
Head up of water for the first time, or is it the last time? I've been dying, I'm gasping for air, it just seems unfair, or maybe it's fair, Blood in the water, save me, why bother? Throw me an anchor and save yourself. Washing the breakers and this is hell. Throw me an anchor and save yourself. Washing the breakers and this is hell. This is hell. Head underwater for the first time, this isn't the last time, I'd be lying to say I don't care, clearly I care, the way I'm right there, Tide's coming in, sharks circling, and I reach out my hand, current drag me out, confirming all my doubts, and I'm fading away. And I'm fading away. Fade away. Throw me an anchor and save yourself. Washing the breakers and this is hell. Throw me an anchor and save yourself. Washing the breakers and this is hell.
Welcome to Cutouts. My name is Mark, and on this episode, I'll be talking with Washington, D.C.'s American Television about their 2025 EP, You Are Not Alone. A few things about this episode that kind of stick out to me. The first one is that Steve kind of found me. I knew of American Television. I remember when Scars came out a few years ago. I like the band, but Steve is the one that actually contacted me about the podcast and said, hey, what do you recommend? He wasn't asking to be on the podcast. He was like, what do you recommend me listening to as a starting point? And I just said, listen to all of them because nobody else is. And we talked more, and he agreed to be on the podcast. He and Bryan are on the podcast. What's also interesting is that this is an album that was paid for by Patreons. This is a record that I purchased using funds that I get from Patreon, and it's the first record that I've really had on. I buy a lot of records through my Patreon, but this is the first record that I've actually had members of the band on to talk about. So thank you to my Patreon subscribers, my Patreon supporters, for that. We go into a little bit on this record. That's the norm, the recording process, and how much I completely nail all their influences in the pop punk world. But we also get into politics a little bit. I don't usually talk about politics on the podcast. I have before, and there's a little bit of subtlety in the way that they discuss politics on this record, and we can't really avoid it. So we will be talking a little bit about how their lyrics really are part of the political scene at the time. Let's get into it. I would like to welcome American Television to the program. How we doing, guys?
Great. Yeah, doing well. Thanks, Mark.
Oh, not a problem. So I've got Bryan on the drums, and I've got Steve on vocals and guitar, and I've got Chris and Edwin. Chris plays guitar and does some backup vox, and Edwin is on the bass guitar. And it's interesting. I usually start by getting into how I got the record that we're going to be talking about, which is You Are Not Alone. But I want to start by something a little bit interesting to me, is that you, Steve, found me. Now, I knew of your band. I knew of American Television. I knew who you guys were. I'd never seen you live until recently. But you actually contacted me on Instagram and was like, "Hey, this looks pretty interesting to me."
Yeah, yeah. Just thinking back to when I reached out, I don't even remember which episode I caught first, but I think I actually got an Instagram post from you first, and was like, "What is this podcast?" I hadn't heard of it, and I really like the concept of kind of going through old record crates at stores and trying to find like sort of forgotten gems. Reminded me a lot of when I was younger, just fishing through bargain bins at CD stores and stuff, and eventually kind of reminded me of a specific record, which is why I reached out, I think, just to let you know about it. There's a band called Triple Fast Action that I was found in a bargain bin, and I always thought it was a great album. So I was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of these guys?" And then we started
Yeah, you
talking.
sent it.
So
You
yeah, it
sent
was a
that to
cool.
me, the link, and it's that's exactly what it's about. You know, and I'm my wife calls it frugal, but really I'm just cheap. So I just go to record stores and I hit the dollar bins or the $5 and less bins, and I'm like, hey, here's a new wave power pop band from 1984 that I've never heard of in my life. Let's buy it, and if it's bomb, okay. But if it's great, I can try to contact them. What's interesting is that recently, well, not recently, but that's the way it started. But then it became me talking to bands that have new albums out. I talked to Hedge last year. I talked to Earth last year. Like bands that put out like brand new music, and I was like, why am I not talking about these bands? Because these are the bands that are not these are the bands that are going to be in the bargain bin later, but these are the bands that the people in Boise don't know about, or people in Austin might not know about. So I'm going to get them on, and I'm going to talk to them because their music is just as banger as anything else I'm picking up in the bargain bin. Because I didn't spend $5 for this, I actually bought this. So you contacted me, and I was like, "That's great, thank you." And you're like, "Where should I start?" And I told you, you just said, "Never mind, I'm going to start at the beginning." Which is great because Impulse International was my very first, and that's actually still a good conversation. I went on to Bandcamp and I bought the record for $22, a bargain. It's worth 30,
Hey, all right. It's
but
already appreciated
I
in
bought it
value.
from you guys directly
Thank you.
from Bandcamp, and then I started listening to you guys in the car on Spotify, and then I was like, well, now we're done. Because again, I'd heard you guys before. I've heard you guys on Spotify. I think I'd heard Scars like a couple of years ago. That's 2023. Yeah, I remember when Scars came out, and I'd listened to that, and I have that on vinyl. But this is not this isn't one I had on vinyl, so I went ahead and I grabbed this for the steal of $22. Hop online and grab one, everybody, because it's a bargain at $22. 6-song EP. You Are Not Alone came out last year in September-ish 2025.
That's correct.
We're
Yeah.
recording this early 2026, and you are on Smart Punk Records. You guys are based in Washington, D.C., which is relatively where I'm from. I grew up and I still live in Maryland. I spent many days in the old 930 Club and Baltimore, D.C., that kind of thing. So you're homegrown as far as I'm concerned. This is I'm going to talk about the history of the band, but this is not the original lineup. It's my understanding that Steve and Bryan, you are original members.
Close, but we can go there.
We can't. I don't know. So that's why I'm asking. But I know Chris was not an original member. So what
That's
was?
correct.
How
Yeah.
did you guys get started? And what was the lineup in the beginning? And how did it evolve into what it is today for this?
I happy to take that one since I'm kind of the last original member of the band
Oof.
because we started in 2013. So I had moved to Virginia in 2012 and just kind of getting my footing in the area. Like, how do I drive around this neck of the woods? And started to discover the music scene a little bit. So I had kind of put some roots down and then was like, hey, I want to start writing music again. I had just left New York with and a bunch of friends that I played music with up there. So I didn't know anyone down here. So I just kind of started going to shows and fishing around for people to speak with. most of the people I spoke with were already in bands, so that really wasn't working out. So I went the Craigslist route.
That never really
Which,
stops
can
anybody.
be
Like how many? I know guys who are in 4 different bands. It doesn't really stop you from being in another band. But I get what you're saying.
fair point. Yeah, I think I was putting my own limits on it because I wanted to make sure that like we were dedicating full time, that the time that we could outside of our own lives to the project. So yeah, moved down here with my wife, and then was looking for a social circle. Ended up putting an ad on Craigslist and speaking with some original members, Joe and Sean, and this other guy Matt. And so we formed the band. And then Joe and my wife, well, not together. That's pretty bad. But Joe's wife and my wife both had kids about the same time. We just kind of put it down for a little bit, right? And then coming back, that's when I connected with Brian. So it was me, Matt, and Brian, and then eventually Edwin. And so we ended up like forming that lineup for quite a while. And then Matt left, and we had Jared is who recorded on Watch It Burn and Scars. So those are our
Right.
other
Your first
two
and
records.
second. Yep.
Yeah, and then Chris joined about, is it over 2 years ago now, Brian?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so Chris joined a little more than 2 years ago. So that's we felt like this album is probably like the best representation of where we are now as a band. It's not too far from where we were. It's just, different style guitar playing and different sort of vocal arrangements.
Well, and I'll actually bring that up. It's something I wrote down, but we'll just segue into it. I have listened. I own Scars, and I own this, which again, it's not really an EP, but it's not really an album. It's 6 songs on one side, which is great. But when you look at Scars, and you look at the album before it, which I do not own, Watch It Burn from 2020, and even when you get into Reaction, which is even before that, you have evolved as a band. The music hasn't really changed, but you have gotten better, in my opinion, as a band. The arrangements, how things sound. But I also find that it's a little less raw. But I also find that over the progression of these EPs, because you have a lot of EPs too. You got that covers EP where you're doing Black Flag and things like that. When you're going through this progression, you are just getting to be a cleaner, much more polished sound, and the sound that you get on this album, on this EP, is extremely polished, and I totally dig it. Harmonies are tight, guitars are great, drums are spot on. Everything about it. Not that Scars wasn't, but it's almost like you took another step towards the pop punk Nirvana, as it were. I wrote that down. Not Nirvana part, not the Nirvana part, but the fact that you guys were progressing as a band.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, I don't know if you want to talk about that. You don't.
No, I mean, I could just say, like, I think part of it is maturation of us as a band, the 3 of us that have been on all of those releases that you mentioned. I think part of it is switching of the lead guitar players that happened. You mentioned Reaction. Our original guitarist, Matt, played on that, and he comes from a more kind of like 90s rock background. And so, we kind of had some of those influences in that music. And then when Jared joined, it's more like straightforward, balls to the wall pop punk. And then Chris comes from more of a skatecore kind of background. So like it's that bringing that lead guitar in definitely fleshes the way we go a little bit. So I think that's helped with the sound and the songwriting. And I also think we purposefully for this last album, last EP, went to a recording engineer named Pedro.
Down in Richmond.
Who plays in down in Richmond, who plays in the Iron Roses. He plays in a band called Shot Clock, and just really just the most in our wheelhouse of any of the kind of engineers that we've worked with. So, you mentioned the guitar playing and the harmonies, and that's like where he lives. With the projects that he works on. So it was just kind of like, even just that had a huge influence on us working with him.
Well, and There's no order for what we have to talk about, but I've written down everything you just said. Honestly, I wrote down influences. Skate punk is the first thing that popped out, but then I said, well, where was skate punk? You know, when did that really kick? And of course, it's, you know, the early 2000s, 2000 to 2005, 2006. So I wrote down Newfound Glory, Saves the Day, a lot of MXPX. But you also have a riff in there. I'm not going to name the song, but there's a riff someone's playing that is right out of Social Distortion's self-titled 1990. When Mike Ness got clean. Do you even know what I'm talking about? You're laughing like you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, we sang along to that song while we were recording our song.
Yeah,
We'll just say that.
So you do have that 90s, you have that early 2000s influence in the skate punk, but then you also have that 90s influence. I mean, I'm old enough to remember. I still have it on cassette. I remember buying that cassette at the mall in 1990, 1989, 90, whenever it came out. That's how old I am, but I still have that Social D cassette. So certainly things are popping out. While we're on it, what are your influences? I mean, you already brought up the skate punk, but you as a band are certainly going to draw on a particular sound. What are the bands that you were like, this is what we want to do?
Yeah, I think on like the punk rock ethics standpoint, like we're very much like Discord, like in mindset. You know, we try to take care of things ourselves. Like I do graphic design for work, so whether it's flyers and other things, like taking that into our own hands and just trying to like navigate how we can do things on our own terms and by ourselves. So even a lot of our music videos are produced with some friends of ours, and you know, the whole thing is an art project, right? And it's all music and art.
The 8-bit stuff you guys had going on too. Yeah, I mean, I've been watching it. It's good.
Yeah. So the whole thing is definitely like, you know, meant to express, right? Express our artistic vision, right? So I think that in that regard, like doing something meaningful with your own hands and being pretty direct with your message. Like I think about Minor Threat a lot when I think about like speaking my mind. But yeah, there's that aspect of the band, and then I think from a musical influence standpoint, we probably spread out a lot in that regard as to what we consider our influences. But I think Put Their Heads, I think about The Loved Ones, I think about Face to Face. Those are melodic punk rock bands.
Have a Face to Face sound too. I get that.
Thanks. And yeah, just like pulling from even Green Day, honestly. Like, I mean, we grew up on that stuff. Like, you can't deny that they're like the kings of 3-chord and 4-chord punk rock songs. So, right. I mean, just pulling on that melody and that grit, those are some of the influences that I can think of. What about you, Bry?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're on the kind of the elder statesman in the band here too. So maybe Mark, we're not that far apart in age. I got a drum set when Nevermind came out. So I mean, like Nirvana is overarching of me being into music. So it's like hard to deny them as an influence on my playing and kind of what we sound like. I think there's a song called Witches on the new record that like it starts with a Nirvana riff, like straight up. So,
love it. And I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
That's my favorite song on the record.
That's one of that's mine too. And you know, and it turns into like a more melodic pop punk song kind of after that intro, but definitely lobbied pretty hard for that riff to be incorporated into a song. So, you know, it's funny. We all there's definitely, you know, a Venn diagram of the four of us, and you can hear the stuff that's like where we all overlap, like Green Day and Face to Face and stuff like that. And Chris kind of comes from the more skate punk, you know, strung out, like almost like that shreddy metallic skate punk stuff. Edwin loves pop saturation, like Blink-182 is his favorite band. So just like that, like super pop melody stuff. And then Steve also brings in some singer-songwriter, Elvis Costello, Violent Femmes kind of stuff. And then I like some of the heavier side of things like Nirvana and like, you know, not that you can probably hear it, but you know, Anthrax is one of my favorite bands and Sepultura is one of my favorite bands. So I try to like bring in that kind of aggression to our music a little bit too, where appropriate and where I can. And then, you know, again, that Venn diagram is heavy, fast, gritty with melody. So, you know, that's what we try to bring all of our influences into. And I guess I'm just name dropping here, but like Avail is a band that does that better
Oh
than
yeah.
anybody else on the
Yeah.
planet. So that's a band that we really look up to as well, especially all living in Virginia.
Of course, I don't record video, but I can see both of you. And Steve just has a head of hair with not a gray in sight. But you and
Are you
I,
sure about that?
no, I'm not sure about that. It's pretty short. But Brian and I both have beards, and it's pretty gray. We're both certainly grayer on the bottom than we are on the top.
Yes.
But that kind of, it does date you in that. I mean, I'm in my mid-50s. I'm assuming you're somewhere in that vein.
Late 40s, very very late 40s.
Okay, so Nirvana, but it's also, you know, we grow up with what we grow up with, and you were talking about the Discord thing, and that's what I was growing up with. I was growing up with I was growing with a lot of synth pop, and I was growing up with a lot of new wave. But then I was introduced to, you know, Black Flag and Bad Brains and Minor Threat and Fugazi, and it's like, well, okay, this is a whole different thing. But you have this whole life that you live, and you bring all that knowledge from all those bands. In fact, Brian, I saw this interview online that you did a couple of years ago, and there's a picture of you, and you're wearing a Faith No More shirt. Good on you. But even better on you is that you're wearing one of my favorite bands ever, Ned's Atomic Dustbin, on the inside of the jacket for this album. That's the T-shirt you're wearing. And I'm just like, yeah, see, would you ever say that you pull from Ned's Atomic Dustbin? I don't know. But, 35-year-old, rock and roll, whatever, indie rock and roll from 35 years ago is certainly something that you are willing to say, this is what I represent. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, we all love the music from when we were, 16 to 20 or whatever it is, and try to find new music along the way. But the top of the list is always those bands that hit us at an important time in life. So
yeah, it shaped us. I get it. I love it.
Yeah.
They're so formative, and when you only get time to practice once a week or a little bit at home beforehand, it's like, how much better can you get than what you've known since you were in your
Exactly.
in your teens?
The band name, American Television, that's been around since 2013 because you released a 2-song EP. At least, I don't know if it was on vinyl or cassette. It's certainly online on Spotify. So 2013, American Television, was that the name from the jump? And how did that name come about?
That's a good question. From the jump,
I prepped you for this, Steve.
So,
I prepped you for all this.
No. I did get a little pre-screen.
He even said, I'll be sure to handle the old ones. So he knew it was coming.
But I didn't think about before our band name. And there was a moment, very brief, one show where I was working with the original lineup on the songs, and we weren't quite ready to play out live, but as a group. So I played at this music shop. My friend, also named Steve, was like, would you want to open? Maybe you can play some of the stuff you're working on. And so I did an acoustic set under the name The Butcher's Son. My dad is a butcher, a supermarket guy, working in the meat department for all of his life. And so I thought that was kind of a cool name. And then it turns out there's actually a butcher shop called The Butcher's Son out there in the world. So I was like, I guess I'm not that unique on coming up with that name. But yeah, I played some of the early stuff off of Reaction at that show. And then I did a cover of Fortunate Son. So I thought that was like a little CCR because my dad was a big fan of them too, is a big fan of them. So I thought it would be cool to do that cover. But that was the original name, Butcher's Son, for a brief moment, one show. And then we became American Television. So name, I can't say for certain exactly what it's about, but one thing I know is that when I left Brooklyn, I had just probably late to the game, but I had really just started absorbing a lot of American Steel. I don't know if you know that band. They were a Lookout band. Then they put out a few albums after Lookout collapsed. But yeah, like that was I was listening to them a lot, and then they actually abbreviate their name AM Steel. So sometimes we call ourselves AMTV, and I didn't actually think about that until I had a little pre-read on these questions. So, but the full name American Television at the time, like we're thinking Jersey Shore, Apprentice. It's funny where we are now, but The Apprentice and like Real Housewives and all these horrible sort of sampling of like the greed and the excess and the sort of like clawing to impress and all that was all happening on the television, and I thought it was kind of like the worst parts of America. So I was like, oh, like
It is
I want to
uniquely
kind of
American television.
right. And so that was really where it stemmed from, was not that I was celebrating it, but more like you know, turning my nose up at like what we had become. And then here we are you know, quite some time later going, oh shit, it got worse, and we're living in a television show with one of the stars of those reality shows.
Right. Former reality TV star being relative. Let's segue into that. So
Sure.
right before we started, I actually said that I don't really talk about politics. I have. I've been with. I've talked to bands. Martha was a band that I was. They're a UK band, but they just scream politics. You guys don't scream it. If you don't pay attention to the lyrics, you're just skating, right? You're just on the half pipe. But when you do pay attention to the lyrics, you're subtly political. And I think you're a little more political on Scars than you are on... I don't know if you're a little more political on Scars than you are on this. But on this record, you seem to... It's almost like if you pay attention, you're a little angry.
Yeah, I like that idea of eating it. You know, Brian mentioned earlier we really like being gritty and melodic. Like we like the pop punk aspects of our band, but going back to the ethics and things growing up that we were listening to, you know, politics was a huge part of the punk rock I grew up listening to, and you know, and it is a common thread to not just in present times, but always to feel that the battle between people is not, you know, between color or anything. It's about the upper and lower class battle. It's not. It's this power dynamic between those who are in charge and those who are expected to sort of follow the rules. And so yeah, I've always kind of felt that way, that you know, people in charge should be kind of, you know, like always listen carefully to what they say to make sure that they're not trying to fuck you in the end. So yeah, so a lot of the lyrics on this are more actually, I like to, even though it's a political record, I think there's a couple songs on there about empowerment, like Stronger focuses on basically, you know, struggle of women compared to men in society. Like they deal with a lot more shit than we do on a daily basis. You know, the fight to move up at work, or to get more money, or, you know, even
Or to have basic health care, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, like that song is about that fight. And then Witches is kind of more, even though, you know, think back to the witch trials, people were being persecuted for, you know, because they didn't fall in line with the specific aspects of what society expected at that point.
Even when they told the truth, even when they said, I'm not a witch, they're like, no, you're a witch. We're going to hang you.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not like them. Carbon copy correlated.
So
So
that song kind of harkens back to that. And then like, you know, I like that song a lot. Brian mentioned it earlier as well, just the
it's
opening.
my
But like,
favorite song on the record.
oh, awesome.
And
Love to hear it, man.
I'm gonna throw some lyrics out if you're okay with that. Well, first of all, there's "This Is Hell," which is kind of self-explanatory. Witches, we are the products of the witches they could not burn. We are the seeds in the ashes they can't discern. Fantastic. I love that lyric, and it's so. But also, you when you're singing it, it's just. It's just so poppy, and you're like, "What am I really listening?" Like I said, if you're not paying attention to the lyrics, you're just skating. Rodeo Clown is very much about 2025. Now, this time feels different. This time feels bad. I can't pretend I ain't scared. It's just this time feels different. This time feels worse. It's like we you don't say it, but we know what we're talking about. And then the best thing about all this is that for all of this rhetoric, "You Are Not Alone" reminded me a lot of the Descendants song "Thank You," where they don't name the band that they are talking about, but they're thanking the band that brought them, that gave them comfort. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but when I read the lyrics, when I listen to the lyrics to "You Are Not Alone," is that even when you're not alone, the music that you listen to is the music that you listen to. And you're not alone because you're in that culture and you're sharing music with other people that listen to that music. Am I wrong about that?
Very good interpretation of it. And we just saw Descendants play "Thank You" the other night, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I did too. I was at that show as well, which we didn't know we were, we were there until afterwards. I was like, you were like, I was at that show too. But it's one of those things.
Every time I hear them play that song, I think they're talking about Fugazi, and that's because that's who I would sing that song to. But I who knows who they're actually singing it about, and it's probably multiple people. But I just always picture that it's Fugazi because that's what those lyrics mean to me.
You know what's funny
Anyway,
is that
I was just interjecting that.
And when I hear that song, I'm thinking about Descendants. I know they're not talking about themselves, but if I were to sing that song to anyone, it would be Descendants because they got me through a lot in high school and college and after college, blah blah blah. But what's interesting is that the song that the album's named after, "You Are Not Alone," it very much is about how for all you got going on in the rest of the record, it's this uplifting message where like if you're not alone, you got this is the music you're listening to, and this is the music that shapes you. And I think that chef's kiss, love it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot. We wanted this record to try to remind folks, like, while we're being force fed like the horrible news on a daily basis, that like that pit in your gut, like that hurts and you're worried and those things, like that's a shared feeling, but music is an escape from that. And like if this music is what gives you that community, then we would like we want you there with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Because you can listen to country, you can listen to EBM, whatever you're into, punk rock, there's a community. If you're going to a Kenny Chesney show, there's going to be 5,000 other people that are there for that Kenny Chesney show. I'm not going, but my sister is because she loves that shit. But then we go to the Descendants, and you were there, and I was there, and I met people there that I've never met before, and I saw people there that I did know, and it's just one of those things where you're part of that community. We're kind of going off the rails, but I'm actually very okay with that because I think that's a great way to end the record. Oh, and I wanted to bring this up. It's very anthemic, right? Where you actually, I was like, you know what? This is the kind of thing you play as you play your show and you're rock and roll stars and you're playing the Cap Center. It's not called the Cap Center anymore. What's it called? Capital One. And you're playing the big gig, and then you go and you play your last song. It's like, thank you, good night. And everyone's like, one more song. And this is the song you come out and play as your encore because it fades out and you're just chanting it, and that's what you want. You want the rest of that crowd to chant that you are not alone. You are not alone. And you actually do it on the record. You fade out and you're still chanting it. And I was like, that reminded me a lot of like Blink-182's Anthem, where it's just kind of like it's just right there in the pocket and you're singing along to it. All right, I'm done.
Yeah. Mark, you think about this even more deeply than we do.
Well, that's what I do.
I
It's
gotta
like
say,
I listen to these records and I'm kind of like, this has to be heard by the 3 people that listen to my podcast. This has to be heard by somebody because, and you know, I'm not. There's plenty of records that I find, and I'm like, this is trash. I don't want to talk to these people. I took a chance with $3. I don't want to talk to these people, but there's some stuff that I'm just like, I really want to talk to these people, and you're a band that I really wanted to talk to. It's good stuff, but we're not done talking yet.
let's keep going.
You went down to I'm not going to pronounce this properly. Audio Verite.
Verite.
You know, I'm not French, Brian, but I appreciate you you correcting me. I took Spanish. I'm sure that's
Same.
yeah. Pedro down there at Audio Verite in Richmond is where you recorded this, and you tell me a little bit about that. You said that you specifically sought him out.
Yeah, I mean, we met Pedro through his band Shot Clock. At least that's how I met him. I don't know, Steve, if you knew him before then or not, but
Yeah, that was the first time.
yeah. So and we played with them a couple times. We ran into him down at Fest in Gainesville, Florida, and just got to know him and learned that he had a studio and got familiar with some of the projects that he had done and just kind of kindred spirits. You know, we were talking about community before. Definitely just instant connection with Pedro. And when it came time to, when we knew we were going to put out this new EP, his name was top of the list. We worked with some other folks before and had great experiences, just kind of chasing that perfect fit for what we wanted our sound to be. And just his past experience, his attitude, his prior projects that he worked on was just the perfect fit. So we went down and recorded this over 2 weekends down in Richmond, and just it was super comfortable, super fun. Just
That's great.
But you know, we were dedicated and we were working on it and made some decisions in the studio, like that fade out with the acoustic guitar that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Earlier at the end of "You Are Not Alone," that like came about in the studio. So it just again. I couldn't say more positive things about his input and working experience and final product with Pedro. We're just so happy all around.
Yeah, and it's a great the product that has been produced by you and he are fantastic. It's a fantastic record. So it's certainly shown that when it gels, it makes a difference. I've talked to bands where I was like, "Hey, you guys had this producer," and they're like, "Yeah, that didn't work out." And it's like, okay. But that's the producer you had. When you have the opportunity to go and find the producer that is right for you and it all gels, it makes a difference on the final product. So
Yeah, for sure. I think being comfortable, him being able to like find our strengths in the studio, you know, or things that, you know, hey, like even recognizing it was time for a break. Like I remember I was doing vocal day 1. He was like, "We're done for today because tomorrow we're going to record vocals again." And even though you're like, I can do 1 more hour, like I'm not going to have you do 1 more hour because I want you to be in tip top shape for tomorrow. So that was like him recognizing that moment, him, you know, offering like little coaching on certain things like that. That's the stuff we appreciated. So it even felt beyond just engineer. It felt a little bit more like producer. And, you know, if you've heard Shot Clock or his other band, Iron Roses, or any of the projects he's played in over the years. Fire Sale is another band that he just sings in Fire Sale, but like he's in some great bands. So to have his songwriting like point of view on things was really awesome in the studio.
yeah, it actually says produced, engineered, and mixed. So that's great that he's wearing all those hats and it worked out so well. Let's go into the gear you're using. I've seen you live. And what I really want to talk about is Chris's guitar. if you really want to know, it's orange fluorescent green strings, and I had the feeling that even though I've only seen you live once, and I'll see you live again, but I have a feeling that's what he always plays because even the amp was like covered in in orange and green fluorescent. Like that's the scheme we're going for, whether you all like it or not.
Whether we all like it or not might be the, the key part of that phrasing. No,
I just brought it up, but
Chris is a gear nut. He loves sparkles. He loves orange. He loves honestly gorgeous Les Pauls. Like he is definitely, he has a certain flair for the type of gear that he plays. And I would say that gear is a personification of his own personality. It is loud. It is like, sometimes it's, vibrating and like, it's a cool thing that Chris, he brings that positive energy to the band. Like we are in the van and we are chatting the whole time, whether we're driving down to Florida or to Pennsylvania or something. So like, his energy and his rig looks like the energy he brings to the band.
and that's a good thing, because if he's 2023 is Scars. I mean, this is early 2026, but literally that was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. He's the newest member of the band. If that's the energy and that's the vibe he's bringing, that also is probably reason, not just him, but the gelling of everything makes this record sound more polished than your past endeavors, in my opinion. So, what are you playing, Steve? You were playing. I don't remember what you were playing on stage. Is this all
Yeah,
is this the stuff you were playing in the studio as well, or did he have guitars down there? It's like, here, try this, try this.
I might have used my head in the studio. Did I use the Avatar in the? Oh, I used the cabinet in the studio. I think I used a different head. That's probably what happened, because I love the speaker. So I have an Avatar cabinet with a creamback in the back of it, and I love that speaker. And then it's two speakers. Chris is our gearhead. I'm just like, I got an amp.
The speakers are round.
Speakers. He goes, what model are the speakers in your cabinet? And the other day over text, and I said they're the round ones. So that just frustrated gearhead. I thought that was a pretty funny answer. But yeah, I have this Avatar cabinet, and then I have a JCM 800 anniversary issue. So this some sound guys freak out because the ports are stacked instead of side by side. So like people who get excited about gear like that head, but 800 is always, that's the head for punk rock, if you ask me. And then my cabinet was just luck of the draw. I ended up getting them both together about a decade ago.
What guitar are you using?
Right now I'm on an Eclipse E2, and it has Evertune in it. So since I don't do a lot of bending and I'm pretty much in standard tuning the whole time, I never have to tune. Ever. That's why it's called an Evertune. So that's a new addition. I used to play Epiphone, Les Paul, and the truss rod somehow is broken inside of the neck. So just over the next 5 years, it'll probably just warp out of tune and never be able to go back. So
I'm just throwing this out there. You can take that to somebody.
I did. I took it to a luthier, and they were like, "It's just going to cost more than the guitar's even worth. So, like, you should just, did it have a good life?" This is the question they asked me. Did it have a good life?
That's funny.
I said, yeah. It's been with me for 15 years, and one of its final shows was on the 930 Club stage, and they were like, "Put that guitar to rest. Hang it on your wall. It's a trophy." And
is that what's behind you right now?
So,
other side.
Yeah,
other side.
Oh no, this is just a Epiphone that Edwin gifted me. It's a little bit on the I can't even take this down. It's locked. I have to lock my guitars up. I have I have an 11-year-old who wants to touch all my instruments. So I just make I lock them on the racks. They don't pop off that easy.
Teach them young. Teach guitar young.
Yeah, this will be his. This will be my son Milo's.
Nice.
So yeah.
And Bryan, what are you playing in the studio? I don't know. You were probably drum sharing at the show that I saw you at up in Baltimore.
When you saw us, that was not mine. I also used Pedro's kit in the studio that I do not remember what it was, but I will say I tend to defer to the producers and engineers, especially when they're working in their own rooms.
Yeah,
because they know how to get it to sound good.
They know how to mic it. They know how to tune it. What they need to do. Yeah.
So rather than bringing something, strange and foreign into their environment, I always kind of, if available, defer to what they have and gear share, especially with drum kits, is pretty regular. So, most shows I'm playing a different drum kit anyway. So when it comes to studio, it's not, I can get it close enough to play on. So.
It's funny. I used to run sound at a club. I don't know if it's there anymore. Down in Charlotte, I lived in Charlottesville for a few years, and I ran sound at a club on the weekends. And it's so interesting to me how people are so against, at least back then, this is, 2005, 2004, people were so against drum sharing. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm not miking 4 different drum kits for, for a Saturday night show. So I'm glad that you're a part of that.
Yeah, I can tell you, I didn't used to be. And then I got older, and carrying my stuff is not as worth it.
That's part of it, but also
it used to be.
It's you're a little bit older, and you look at the 20-somethings, the 21-year-olds, and are like, I have to play my kit. I was like, no, you don't. You're making it so much. I'm making this as a PSA to other bands. If you're listening to this, share your drums, because good Lord, the last thing they need to do is re-mic 4 drum kits, or even 3 drum kits on a rotation. Just bring your cymbals. You want to bring your snare, have a good time. It's a pork pie or whatever. Just bring your own stuff and leave the drums at home. I'm done. But I'm glad that you deferred to Pedro, because you're right. When you're in a studio and they have their kit and they have their room, they have their sound, they have their mics, they know exactly what they're doing, and it makes a difference. This sounds. I told you that in the beginning. This sounds super tight. Everything sounds just locked. The harmonies are locked, and the drums are locked, and everything's great. The album art, we never. I'll just say this. I'll say what I noticed at that show about Edwin's bass. You were talking about the JCM 800 as like the quintessential. That being said, from a bass, I'm a bass player not a very good one, but I'm a bass player nonetheless. The P bass, the precision bass, is the go-to standard for punk rock. Every single person at the show that you played in Baltimore was playing a jazz bass, including Edwin. And I thought that was really weird, because I was like, oh, he's playing a jazz bass, because that's my favorite bass, is the jazz. And it's a thinner neck, and I can get around on it faster. But I just thought that was weird that nobody was playing a P bass. So I assume he just brought his own bass and plugged in and had a good time.
Yeah, we would never borrow.
Yeah, he has like a Sans amp little thing that he has his tone dialed in on. So he probably used that. But yeah. And
this isn't the first time I've talked about the Sans amp bass driver on this show, because it's just, if you're a bass player and you don't have one, it's just the best investment you can ever make is to bring those everywhere you go, for recording, for a show, for whatever, for practicing. They're just everywhere, and they always sound good. So I'm glad he went old school, simple. The artwork is great. What's interesting about the artwork is you've got the front where you have 2 kids across the street from each other. I'll put a picture of this up, and they're on a tin can phone, which is slightly less advanced than our own cellular technology. And then on the back, you've got the 2 tin cans on the string as they're running away, probably to get married. That's fine. That's what kids do nowadays. And then what's great is this is a one-sided album. So you've got the record on one side in this beautiful blue and pink. This is super 80s as far as I'm concerned. And then on the back is another picture of them running away with the tin cans, and it's etched in there, and it's beautiful. Tell me about the artwork for this record.
The back is a silk screen, actually. So etching would be cut into the record, much like
you know what? You play. I don't know what I'm talking about, Steve. Come on, man.
I'm losing your connection. I gotta go. Yeah. So I was. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm a designer. I did not design this. I'm not a very good illustrator by my own judgment. Some other people think I have some illustration skills, but that's a different podcast. The tin can string phone, we were just talking about it would be cool to have something iconic that shows connectivity. What could it be? And so that was the first discussion, is just telephone, a broadcasting satellite dish or something like that. And then, eventually arrived on something simple, like tin cans, because why not? I mean, like they're very iconic. They're part of like American culture, right? To
Yeah.
some degree, like, and so we were like, that'd be cool. And that name of the record is "You Are Not Alone." On the front is why they're kind of in their separate homes. There's no activity on the street. There's just like this beautiful cloudscape, and then on the back is them after they've connected and realized that they like kind of have this bond. They're off and running. So we gave that idea roughly to Instagram is Stereo Design. Their name is Seabass. Their illustrator that Chris actually was admiring. So he's done a lot of work for Thousand Island Records out of Canada, and a lot of the bands Chris loves are on that label. So he was like, "There's this guy, we should check out his work," and we ended up loving it. And when we talked about sky colors, you can guess who probably went with "Let's Make It Pink." I think "Let's Make It Orange" might have been the first color.
Yeah, well, the fact that you brought it up, now I know it's Chris, and that's fine. But I love the color scheme, because your color scheme, I don't know if you're doing a repress of this anytime soon, but the color scheme on this of pink and blue and white is the exact same thing that's on the record. It's pink and blue and white. So I thought that was marketing 101. Well done.
We'll pay it off. Still paying off those loans, but
Well, yeah,
say that I got the color scheme right on our record.
Apparently, vinyl 25 years ago was a lot cheaper to make than it is now. How are you guys writing? Is it a collaborative effort? Is it one person coming with ideas, or are you each bringing ideas into the practice space and then saying, "Hey, let's flesh this stuff out"? Because it says, hold on, does it say? I think it says all songs written and performed by American Television. So I don't know how you guys are sharing the credits on this.
We go to ChatGPT. No, I'm just kidding.
There's an OnlyFans page that we share.
I would say this record, because Chris was coming in to the band and we wanted him to put his stink on it. Like, it was definitely like a lot of the songwriting starts outside of the space, and then it sort of takes, we talk about parts and arrangements inside of the space. So, but what was unique about this record is because we wanted Chris's touch on the songwriting. Like, typically it used to be a lot of me, Jared, our old guitarist, and I worked together on stuff, but the majority of those previous songs were things that I had written. I'm not taking all the credit, probably like 75%.
I get it.
Like, cool. But like with Chris coming in, we're like, oh, he has the ability to spread guitar solos. He comes from this like faster blast beat background. Like, let's see what kind of like touch he can put on it. So we spent a lot of time writing together at his house. He's got like a home studio to some degree, like just like a little interface that we could use. So we were doing some demoing there, and then we would bring the songs back to the space and chop them up. I would say Brian's our best editor. So he's really good at saying, that's too long. I think that's your favorite statement.
So you're writing,
yeah,
and he's arranging. Brian's arranging.
Yeah, I would say Brian's definitely like the key arranger.
I mean, together with everybody, but yeah, I mean, I'm definitely we don't need 5-minute punk rock skate songs guy. So there's definitely some editing there where it's like, this solo doesn't need to be 8 bars, it can be 4, that kind of stuff.
I usually write a little slower at home, and then everyone says make it faster. So that's how the songs end up getting squished a little bit shorter on the parts, a little bit faster.
Right, because this is 20 minutes, 6 songs in 20 minutes or something like that. It's a pretty quick album, which is
and
fine.
It has a fade out. And it
has a chanting anthem at the end that we just all put our fists in the air and we shout. Perfect.
Don't even have to flip it. You could just listen to one side and then go about the rest of your day.
Or just put the needle back on the record. You don't have to even pick up the record.
Yeah.
What kind of experiences have you guys had? I don't know. You mentioned Fest. Have you played Fest?
Yeah, I think
we played Fest 4 times.
I can't keep up. I can't keep up with you. You kids are all over Fest. I mean, I've known a Fest for years, but I'm an old man. I'm not. My Fest days, my festival days, were back in the '90s. I'm not driving out of Florida 18 hours just to see a show. If I'm not in the band, I'm not going down there. I'm not getting paid. So I've never been to Fest. It's certainly on the list, but there are. I got a mortgage, so yeah, I've never been to Fest. I'm glad. So I didn't know you guys had played Fest, and I think that's great. Tell me a little bit about the shows you do. Is there anything that stands out touring wise, or a show that you're just like, I can't believe that this guy got his fingers cut off? Whatever the case may be, is there something that happened at a show or a tour where that kind of sticks out to you guys? Like, this was absolutely amazing.
I mean, the main thing that sticks out to me, and then it's not really a story like that or anything. It's that we got invited to play 930 Club. So, you mentioned it earlier in the interview, Mark, growing up, going to shows there. I only went to the old club one time, but have been to, the quote unquote new one that's 26 years old now or whatever it is, my whole kind of like adulthood seeing bands there. So, not this past December, but the December before, we were invited to open the Pie Tasters annual Halloween show. And obviously they've been doing, the best ska band from the DC area since the 90s.
Yeah, that's great.
So, they've built up a huge following, and they're just do this annual hometown show, and through some networking connections that we don't need to bog you down with. But we got invited to open that show, and it's just like bucket list item for us. Just, especially me growing up here more so than Steve, maybe a little bit, and it was just amazing. Like, we're a punk rock band that plays small rooms, and this is like, had like catering and our own dressing room, and just like, and not that stuff is what makes or breaks anything, but it was just top to bottom, like just a top notch day for me as an amateur musician.
Well, it's interesting because I grew up, actually, I don't know if you can kind of see it right here, right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the tickets that I had when I was a teenager and into my 20s. I kept all my ticket stubs. And I'd say a third of them say 930 Club. And the other third say Meriwether Post, and then there's other stuff scattered around. But I used to go to the old 930 Club a lot. And it's interesting you bring that up because I've been to the new 930 Club a lot as well. But when you go to the old 930 Club, when you did go to the old 930 Club, it smelled like smoke and urine and beer, and I've been downstairs in the dressing room, and it was just this small room where, I saw national acts there that weren't really national acts. They were indie bands. And now it was iconic then, and it's iconic now. But it's a much different thing where it is this gigantic place where you see really great bands at the 930 Club all the time. And you're right, growing up, it's I've never played the 930 Club. You grow up in DC, and that's almost like it is the rite of passage is to play a club like the 930 Club. I completely agree with you.
It was amazing, man. It was a great experience. I've got so many. Yeah, you mentioned like cut off finger. I'm with Brian. Like, I don't have a story that's gory.
I was just making an example, but I'm, is there something that sticks out? Like, I always get more than once I've gotten we went inside of the club and we came back 5 minutes later and all of our stuff's gone from the van. That's kind of story.
I have one time we were in North Carolina, someone almost was breaking into our van, and a friend of ours spotted it. So that was good. That didn't happen, but a full circle moment for me as a punk rock kid, as a musician. I grew up in Long Island, New York, and when I was about 15 or so, I used to take the train into Manhattan, and then we would actually save our money so we could leave the show as late as possible. We would just walk all the way down to the East Village to go to shows at CBGB's. This is in like the late 90s, mid 90s.
Again,
90s.
Iconic.
It would just like walk all the way downtown, and it was next to a methadone clinic, so it was a little bit sketchy at times, like just situated there. But I think it was last year, it might have been 2 years ago, we actually played Bowery Electric, which is a club that's like probably a block away from CBGB's. And since CB's is now like some high end clothing
Yeah,
store,
it's
that was
defunct.
not that exciting. Not that exciting, but what was exciting to be right back in that block where, like, honestly, like my sort of punk rock roots started,
Yeah.
you know, going to New York hardcore shows and punk rock hardcore shows and being like there with our friends in Night Surf. Those were good friends of mine from when I lived in Brooklyn prior to Virginia, and playing with Houseboat, which is one of my favorite pop punk bands. Like that show to be with friends, you know, they'll probably laugh at me for saying heroes, and then being on the street that like sort of was the epicenter of the genesis of my punk rock
To
sort of
find you.
education. It was amazing. It was like so cool to come full circle a couple of years ago to that.
That's great. Guys, I've run out of things to talk about. I would like to thank you for being on the show. This has been great. I was really, Steve and I have been talking. We both have been really looking forward to this. At least I have. I'm not going to speak for you, Steve, but you did say that in a text that you're looking forward to this. So I'm going to throw it out there. And I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. This was a fantastic conversation, and this is such a great record. All your records are good. This one's great.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Yeah, and I mean, it's something to strive for, to continually get better. So, you know, like we've talked about, we've had some metamorphoses over the years and working with different collaborators and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it all led us to here, and we're pretty happy with where we're at and what we've done.
No, excellent. And I'm looking forward to whatever you guys are bringing out next. So, and I'll be at a show sooner than later.
Sounds good.
Because
Be
you're
out
local.
there.
It makes it easy. All right. Stay safe, guys.
Night.
Well, that just about does it for this episode of Cutouts. I would like to thank Brian and Steve for being on the podcast. I would like to thank you, the listener, for listening to the podcast. You're what makes this engine run. We talked about community on this episode, and certainly you are a part of my community. I'd like to thank Craig and Brian and Brendan for being pseudo-producers, kind of throwing some ideas my way. You know, Brian's been throwing a lot of ideas my way, and they're all shot down pretty quickly, but I appreciate the gumption. I appreciate you trying, Brian, so thank you for that. Jody does the artwork, Stacy does the web hosting, and my beautiful bride, Megan. Just, you know, it's nice to have a split level because she can be upstairs fast asleep, and I just got music blaring downstairs. She can't hear a thing. So, you know, rock and roll. If you would like to support what I'm doing on this podcast, you can do so by going to Patreon. That is patreon.com/cutoutspodcast. Once again, this episode was actually a Patreon purchase. I bought it right off their website using Patreon funds. So this was money well spent, in my opinion. You can always write me and tell me what you're doing for your summer vacation. It's at cutoutspodcast@gmail.com. And with that, good night, everybody.